I'm Pamela Nance, a cultural anthropologist, author, historian, and experiencer of higher consciousness.
What is the soul?
I think the soul is the seat of the conscious I, the place where our emotions, intentions, memories lie, but it connects to a higher consciousness and does not suffer a death upon our physical death. It goes on to live and to be reborn.
What is the soul's relation to Source/God?
I think the soul's relationship to the source is a symbiotic relationship. We come from the source, we're a piece of the source, and so we exist as a physical component of the source. And as a result, that energy never dies, and when we're ready, we return to that place of creation.
Are human incarnations voluntarily chosen?
I think human incarnations are chosen voluntarily. We choose the best life for this current existence based on what we want to learn, who we want to be kind to and compassionate towards, and to become better souls ourselves and in turn help others along their journey.
What's the purpose of life on the physical plane?
I think the purpose of life on the physical earth plane is to continue to grow our souls, to understand who we really are at a soul conscious level, to become self aware and aware of our role in our life here on planet Earth and how we can benefit ourselves, others, and ultimately our environment.
Do souls have more than one incarnation, either on Earth or elsewhere?
I think souls do have more than one incarnation on Earth, and that we certainly have existed in other planes of time and space. We can't learn everything that we need to learn at a soul level in just one incarnation. It takes many, many times of coming back, almost like coming to elementary school or grade school and learning how to come up through the ranks, and finally with the goal of graduating into a higher dimension, into a higher self.
Does the soul plan its incarnations ahead of time?
I think there is a soul plan for each life during our incarnations. So the soul plan would contain stages of life that would help us grow. Like we might choose to become someone dedicated to a religious factor or a religious sector in order to help people with their spirituality that need a boost at that point in their existence. Or we may come in as a teacher to share our knowledge with children or adults in a learning environment. We may come in as a scientist to help promote new ways of thinking and innovation, things that can help our soul transcend into a higher level of knowledge. On the other side, we have that ability to see things clearly and to choose the the different stages that will help us grow into who we finally need to become.
Do we have soul groups that we incarnate with across different lifetimes?
I think we do have certain people that we incarnate with across lifetimes, not necessarily the same full group through each lifetime. We may choose parents that are beneficial in this lifetime that might not benefit us in the next lifetime. But I do think that there's a core group of individual souls that we choose life after life because they are part of who we are. So I think that you can incarnate with a soul group of souls that you have bonded with throughout lifetimes, although those roles may change. In this current life, my husband might be my wife in my next life, or we may be brother and sister. Those roles can change indeterminately based on the needs that we have to fulfill our soul's progression within each life. We can learn from each other and learn from those roles of being in a different state of awareness.
Are there contracts or agreements between souls?
I think that there can be a certain amount of contract and agreement between souls. While we're on the other side, if we're with our soul group, we may discuss and plan how we can help each other in our next incarnation and work that into our plan as we develop it from the other side. And this would be a way or an opportunity to fulfill our growth as a group as we travel into each incarnation. We can make those choices in that plan.
Do spirit guides or angels assist us?
I believe that our spirit guides can assist us. We just have to recognize those little breadcrumbs, those signs that they put in front of us. We have to pay attention to these little tidbits of things that come into our pathway and know when we should take a right instead of a left, and to listen to that little voice that we all have. We all have that recognition of that voice inside of us. And if we think that it's something speaking from a higher plane of existence, we should pay attention. So, my example of a spirit guide leaving me signs are feathers. My great great grandmother, who was full blooded Cherokee, is one of my guides. And so, very often, if I'm in a point of life where I'm contemplating a certain path I should take, and I'm torn about my decision, a feather will just materialize out of nowhere. And I see that as a sign that I'm on the right path and I should continue on that path. For instance, I was driving down the road one day and I was contemplating a restoration to an 1850s log cabin and wondering if I was doing the right thing, when suddenly something caught my eye. I looked down, and on the passenger side of the car in the floor was a hawk feather. There was no way the feather could have entered the car. It wasn't there when I started out driving. It just materialized out of nowhere. And so I took that as a sign from my great-great-grandmother that I was on the right path.
What is death?
So death is our period of transition from the physical life into the spiritual life. We transcend across the veil into a higher consciousness of existence. And from what I've experienced, that is our true reality. What we leave behind is this physical dead body, and we're reborn into a conscious life that is the real, true life, our true home, and the state of all being. That's where we become rested and rejuvenated, and we begin our learning, our education on the other side. So the difference between our physical realm and the higher realm is exponential. You almost, when you transition over and you have the ability to look back briefly at this life, it's almost as though it was dull and dead all along, because what you transition to in the spiritual plane is pure joy. The colors, the feeling of life is indescribable. It's like being a kid again when you didn't walk anywhere, you ran everywhere. It's that energy, but you can multiply that 1,000 times and it still does not explain the energetic being that you become on the other side. It's as though you truly have been reborn. You've never seen things or heard things the way you do in the spiritual realm.
What is the veil of forgetting and why do we need it?
We need the veil of forgetting when we come into the physical plane in order to fully learn what we have chosen as our plan in this current incarnation. If we brought all of the knowledge in that we've learned from previous lifetimes, there would be no benefit in coming here. We would have already transcended to a higher realm. Clearly, we're not ready for that if we're back in the earthly plane. And so we don't bring that knowledge with us. It would influence us or impede us actually from learning the lessons that we need to learn in this current lifetime.
Discuss the role of free will in a given incarnation.
The role of free will is our ultimate role. We have the ability from birth, as we learn, to choose how we move forward. We create our own reality through the choices that we make, and that's where we need to become self-aware throughout our lifetime. It would be sometimes easy to choose a path that seems easy at the time, but sometimes it's better to choose the hard path with the intention to succeed, even though it might be difficult. That choice and our free will lead us in the direction that we've already chosen, the direction that we know at a soul level. We create that end result. Part of our growth in this lifetime is to learn to recognize and to follow that voice and choosing the path and knowing what's right and what's wrong and how that will ultimately benefit us and the people that we come into contact with.
Is life on the physical plane an illusion?
I don't think life in the physical plane is an illusion. I think that that's almost a dangerous concept to have because that takes away responsibility, the responsibility that we have while we're here in this 3D reality. This is where we are right now. We're flesh and blood. It may seem illusionary once we cross over to the other side and look back because we know this isn't our true place of final existence. But while we're here, it's not an illusion, it's not a dream. This is our flesh and blood reality, and it's our place to learn and to grow.
Do we create our own realities?
I think we do create our own reality, and through the choices that we make, the thoughts that we have, the people that we surround ourselves with, we have the ability to choose. And and choosing the outcomes that feel right for us at the moment will lead us to down the path further, hopefully to more positive interactions and experiences, and that will in turn draw in a more positive environment that will keep us healthy and happy within this life. If we choose to think in a negative way, we are going to attract negative into our lives. But if we try to stay positive and do good deeds and treat people fairly, we will experience the law of attraction, the law that will pull in the more positive people, the more positive experiences into this life, and hopefully make other people's lives more positive.
Are we judged or punished for our mistakes in the afterlife?
I think in the afterlife, we judge or punish ourselves. We're not judged or punished by an outside source. During our life review, we're shown our life in total, and if that includes hurting people, being unkind, doing things that we should not have done, we experience that. We experience the other person's pain, the injustice, and that in itself is our punishment. It's not an external punishment coming from anyone else but ourselves as we see and experience what we have done to others that was perhaps a very negative way to act in this life.
Is there such a thing as hell?
I don't think that there's like this physical place called hell that we've all been indoctrinated with where you burn in fire forever. But I do think that when we transcend to the other side and we look back upon our previous life, if we led a life that was not the most desirable, as we experience those deeds, that in a sense can cause this feeling of a hellish feeling of knowing that what we did was wrong. But as far as residing in a place of fire and punishment for eternity, I do not believe that that exists.
Describe the life review.
So, in my experience on the other side, the process of the life review is after you enter the realm of life between lives and you meet with your guides and maybe your counsel, you are taken to a place of learning. And part of that learning is being shown almost like through a video screen or a deep bowl that you're looking down upon. And this life review plays out like a movie, and you see every moment of your life on the screen, almost like a film being shown to you. Every single moment of your life, and that includes birth through death, good and bad, all the people that you've come into contact with, the things that you have done. And at that point, you take on the emotion and the feeling and the responsibility of how you led that life. And in this life review, the outcome is to choose better or choose to do better with your next choices for incarnation. So in that life review, we actually feel the other person's perspective. Say if we were, as a kid, a bully to another child, we actually experience how that child felt when we were being a bully towards them, or if we said unkind things as an adult, or did something that we knew was really wrong to a person, we experience that from that person's point of view. We feel their pain, we feel their suffering, we can feel what our action did to them in the physical plane. That is very real, and that is part of our life review.
What is karma?
I think karma is the sum of our actions that we perpetuate in this current life existence and our previous life's existence, and it can set our fate for our future life existence.
How do you define forgiveness?
For me, forgiveness is one of the hardest lessons that I'm learning in this life. I guess forgiveness is being, as far as a definition, um, being able to understand why a person may have done something to you that was wrong. Trying to understand from their perspective why this injustice or this bad deed or whatever it was was perpetuated onto you, and learning to let go of whatever anger comes out of that. Um, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to have a relationship with that person going forward. It's more of a letting go of that feeling of being wronged and holding like contempt and anger towards that person, because in the long run we're just doing harm to ourselves if we can't learn to forgive and realize that these people are human just the way we are. They're fallible, they're going to make mistakes, and we have to let it go. But, if it is a really bad action that they've taken, we don't have to continue with that person in our life. We can just let it go, let them go, and move forward. So I've really struggled in this lifetime with forgiveness. Had I've perceived that through certain people I have really been wronged and unjustly, and this has been very difficult for me to let go. These have been people that are very close to me, family members. We've had a difference of opinion at a spiritual level, and I was ostracized for my beliefs and almost shut out from certain segments of my family. And so it was very difficult to forgive those particular individuals. I've struggled with it. I struggle with it today. I have worked towards forgiving them. It's not full and complete, but I know that it's a work in progress, and I do ask for guidance every day in helping me let go of the anger and the resentment that comes from that interaction and negativity that really I've just created myself. So it is a big struggle. I haven't come to terms with it, but I am working towards that goal.
Discuss the idea of oneness/unity and how we can apply it in our everyday lives.
So the concept of oneness and unity is going back to realizing, or the realization, that we are all one from the source, one from the creator, that we've all been created out of love. And if we can hang on to that thought, hang on to that idea and that concept that we're all the same, that we have this bond that and this connection, we can communicate and have a better understanding of where we are and how we can have relationships with people and how those relationships can bring us together and into a better understanding of what our role is here on earth. And by having that connection, we dispel the fear that keeps us separate from each other.
What, where is heaven? What, where is God?
So I think heaven might mean different things for different people. In my experience, my heaven, when I cross to the other side, is a beautiful garden full of brilliantly colored flowers, lush grass, tree-lined streets, marbled halls, places of joy and learning. I can create in that environment. I, on the other side, I'm an animal caregiver. I'm a plant caregiver. I study the healing arts. That is my heaven. That's what I perceive as heaven. And for me, our source, our God, our creator exists there. That creator, the source, is not necessarily visible in a form as far as a physical form, but the creator is in everything. All of the things that I see, that I envision while I'm on the other side. But I think it depends on on your experience, on the person's life that they've led, their belief system, what they actually experience on the other side. It can be much different from person to person. So in my experience, you don't have to cross over to the other side to experience God in this life. I've been at some really low points in my life, and I've called upon God. At one point, I dropped on my knees and I prayed the way I've never prayed before. It was heartfelt, it was soul-wrenching, and I felt a connection to the source, to God. I called out, I cried, and my prayers were answered. I had a change in my profession and my whole path going forward. So I know that God is accessible to us here on the earthly plane, that we don't have to die to cross over to communicate with God. We can have communication with God here on earth.
Many believe we're shifting to a higher consciousness on this planet. Do you agree? And if so, can you describe this shift?
I do think our planet is shifting to a higher level of consciousness. In my life, I've had periods of communication with light beings. And in one particular instance, this occurred in 2015, I had a missing time event in which I was in the presence of two light beings who had come here to impart a message to me that our planet and our solar system is shifting into a higher frequency. And in part, this is due to sort of some scientific factors that are occurring with our sun that is pushing our solar system further into the galaxy and further into the universe. And as we're shifting further out, it's changing the vibrational frequency of all the planets within the system, and particularly the vibrational frequency of planet Earth. And what they imparted to me is that in order to survive this planetary change of vibrational frequency, humans have to raise their vibration. We have to raise our consciousness and think about ourselves and our conscious spirit and go beyond the materialistic. We can't be consumed by just the present moment. We have to think outside of ourselves and become more self-aware and raise that vibration in order to survive this planetary change that is coming. In order to raise our higher level of consciousness, we need to reach out to one another. We need to seek out like-minded people and share, and even through what we're doing today and sharing within this film, we are reaching people that maybe we might not reach in our day-to-day life. We can reach out to impart a message that makes people think in a different way, that they can take the blinders off and just through conversation and expounding on these spiritual levels that we can achieve, we actually raise our consciousness just through that conversation, just through our thoughts and sending these messages out to people who may not have had these thoughts in the past.
What's the secret to remembering who we really are?
For me, in remembering who I really am, meditation works really well. I've been studying meditation for a number of decades, and that allows me to quiet my rational thinking brain into a level that will help me project my consciousness out into the universe and meet my guides and travel. That tends to be one of the best mechanisms for me is meditation. But what also works is staying open to people who fall into my path that want to impart information to me. I stay open to that, to their thoughts, to their information, to their way of thinking. And in turn, that tends to lead me down pathways where I am introduced to other people, like-minded people. And in addition, you can just practice deep breathing, mindfulness, yoga, anything that connects you to your higher self that will take you out of the fast-paced world that we live in and connect us to our true identity.
What does our soul want us to know?
I think our soul wants us to know that we are limitless, boundless. We have the ability to transcend out of this materialistic realm that we find ourselves living in. And we can call upon that soul to help guide us, to reach out to our higher self, to our guides, to speak to our rational, intellectual mind, and help us, understand that we're more than just this flesh and blood human body with a brain. Our soul wants us to know that there is information out there that's available to us and from which we can learn, and hopefully enhance our lives going forward.
Is there a positive message or message of hope you'd like to leave us with?
So, my message of hope, again, is that I hope that we can all become more compassionate and loving towards all people because we are all from the same pure love. We're connected. And if we can understand that connection and that love that ties us together, we can dispel the fear that keeps us apart because we're all the same at the soul source with the source. We're all one. And if we can just hang on to that and understand that we're brothers and sisters, that there's nothing that separates us except the fear that we've created in our reality of being separate, that my hope is that we can ultimately come together in this higher understanding of this connection and love.